You stupid bitch. Yeah, you're a stupid bitch. You stupid bitch.
Okay.
But how are you anyway?
I'm good, stupid bitch. How are you? You
I'm
look
also good.
wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Gorgeous.
It's part of the new drink I'm drinking tonight, but I'll let you know when we get to that stage of the podcast.
Sure, please do. I'm very excited to hear about it.
Speaking about the podcast, I've had a few people at work. We've had a few new starters, and they'll be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Or "What are you doing tonight?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm recording my podcast," and someone actually noticed our tattoos that we've got.
Oh,
So is that
yes.
a wine glass? I'm like, yeah, because we drink wine during our podcast. What's your podcast? Blah 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 blah. So I'm just like, oh God, these people that see me as this lovely person walking around are going to hear some fucking vile shit come out of my mouth if they listen to the podcast.
I know when I was away from work, everyone was asking me because it came, one of the people I was traveling with, they mentioned something and it came up, and then I was like, oh, and they were asking all these questions. I was like, it's a
Yeah.
little bit, you know, raunchy.
Pissy and sweary.
It's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't put this on in front of your kids.
Mm. Anywho,
Anywho, so speaking of podcasts, welcome to this week's episode of A Stupid Bitches Say What? Our Aussie
what?
podcast about everything and nothing, but
But
always with
always.
wine or a beverage. And your stupid bitch hosts, Skyly Collett.
And Sean Bino Hipkins. I forgot when I was supposed to come in then. It just
I've
confused me every time I fuck it up, don't I?
well, not really. I think we do it differently every time. So it's hard to sort of
Yeah.
cement what the fuck's going on.
You throw me off. I need a script. I've told you that multiple times.
We used to script it, but then I got feedback. It sounds too scripted. So I was like, all right, let's not do it with the script and just fuck it up. So, what are you drinking?
What am I drinking? Well, I had a little tipple last night, and I shouldn't have on a weeknight because we had some celebrations for my husband.
I'm sure you'll get to that
Um,
later.
Actually, I wasn't really going to touch on it, but I guess I have to. um, so we had a little bit of a Chandon and then a bit of Brita and maybe a couple of beers. But I wasn't going to drink tonight, but then I was like, fuck it. I've had a real day of it. So I am drinking. Tyler actually grabbed it for me. My husband, Tyler, grabbed it for me. It's Taylor's estate label Cab Sav, Clare Valley,
Oh,
Limestone Coast, 2022. And I tell you what, it's a fucking delicious drop for someone who's a little bit seedy.
oh, very good. Is it chilled as well?
Mm. I put a cube of ice in. I know that's really crass and
It's
people will judge
it's
me.
hot. People do it in
Um,
rosé. You can do it in a cab sav.
this is what it looks. It's not that pretty of a bottle. It does
Well, it's
have a
kind of
little
regal looking.
seahorse. I feel like you had this one time and you said they were dragons. And I
I
said, they're not
did.
fucking dragons,
Yes.
they're
You
seahorses.
said it's a seahorse, and I said, I think you're right.
Anyway, it's delicious. I'm enjoying it. Promised myself I'd only have one glass. Let's see how
Famous
that
last
goes.
words.
And what are you drinking, stupid bitch?
Well, I am being a little sensible bitch tonight. Or boring. I'm not having an alcoholic beverage,
Such
but
a snooze fest,
I am
boys.
having something. So lately, I've been having collagen supplements.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've had
Yeah, so
those.
you can put them in with some of them you can mix in with your coffee in the morning,
Yeah.
and that's you get other ones that you can just mix in with water and taste like chalk. But this one is a hot chocolate.
Oh, what's it like? And it's a sleepy one too. We bought one a little while ago. It was quite expensive. It was about like $25 or something
Oh,
plus delivery. But fuck, it was nice.
what was it?
It was, oh, I'd have to find it. It has the collagen and shit, but Jesus, it was beautiful. And it had like rose petals in it.
Oh wow.
And it had this very faint flavor of rose in it. God, it was beautiful. We
Oh,
smashed it. And then I've been meaning to buy more. That was ages ago. I think I got a voucher or something for it or something. And then I was like, oh
okay.
shit, I can't pay full price plus delivery. That's a bit rich. Feel like a fucking Kardashian or something.
Well, I got mine from Nutrition Warehouse, and I think it was about $30. But there's 30 serves in it, so it's like $1 a, which isn't too
Yeah.
bad. It's really good. This has passion flower in it too,
Oh, right.
and
Okay.
chamomile. So yeah, it's nighttime shred formula. So
Mm.
it's working for me, and it's actually delish. I
How
just
many
use a lot of.
calories plus?
Well, look, it's 99% sugar free.
That's good.
Per calorie per serve, there is 43 calories.
Oh, that's decent.
Hashtag winning, I
With
say.
normal milk? Or do you mix it
Oh,
with
that might be
water?
just with water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's just with water. Mine is with sort of half and half.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But usually I'll just have it with water and a dash of milk. But tonight I frothed that milk up.
Oh, frothy, frothy.
Mm. But it's actually really tasty. And I
Lovely.
promise I'll drink next week.
That's okay. I don't mind drinking alone.
Done it before.
Party for one.
I love a party for one.
I love a party for one.
Yeah, same. Your own music.
Playing some cards, doing
Yeah.
a jigsaw puzzle.
How's your week been? You
Look,
stupid bitch.
it's been a few weeks actually since we've caught up. So I have
Yes.
quite a few things that I wanted to touch on. A couple of TV shows back on the Gilmore Girls train, watching it. Tyler is hating life because I've been watching it. He says it's about the 7th time that I've watched it since we've been together. We've been together nearly 6 years.
How many episodes? How many seasons?
There's 7 seasons plus the when they redid it with the movie length episodes. So there's 4 movie length episodes that go for about 2 or so hours.
Have you done the full rewatch from start to the finish with the new episodes? Yeah. When did they come out?
I was living in Thornside because I was super did a countdown for it all. It was a huge thing when they redid it.
I thought they only recently came out.
No, it's probably been out maybe between 7 and 10 years.
So of course you've done it properly. Yeah, good.
Yeah. So it's just, and like Tyler sits there and he's like, oh my God, I hate this show so much. I hate these people. I hate the characters. I hate everything they say. And he super judges me for it. But I can't even explain it. Do you know, I think that if I was to watch it fresh right now and hadn't watched it so many times over the years, I would probably think this is the worst show I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But it's just my thing. It's just and I wouldn't say it's a great show. I wouldn't be like, hey, go out and watch it immediately. I definitely wouldn't recommend it to you. It would not be your cup of tea.
Maybe if I was a teenage boy when I was watching it, I would have felt a bit more in love with it.
There's some jokes sometimes that make me think of you actually, but I can't think of any right now, so don't ask me. So back doing that, we have been watching Bad Monkey, which is the movie, the TV show that's come out based on some books. And it is the dude who did Scrubs and Cougar Town.
Yes, you were talking. Did you not talk about this in the last episode?
I think I talked about Shrinking, or maybe I did talk about it coming out, but we hadn't watched it yet.
Right?
I can't remember
because I remember you telling me about the guy who did Scrubs and everything.
Yeah. So it's really good. Like I know, like I think you have to be a fan of what's his name, Vince Vaughn.
Guy. Okay. Is it a
Wedding
comedy?
Crashers guy? Yeah, comedy. Comedy, crime-ish mystery thing. Yeah. Very good. Loving it so much. But now we binge watched the first few episodes and then realized it was one that comes out every week. So now we're waiting week on week for it to come out. So highly recommend that. Wanted to touch on the books that I'm reading, give a little bit of synopsis. So I've actually been listening to a book on tape as well, which I'm a bit obsessed with. And again, Tyler's like, I don't even know how you can listen to this woman talking. Oh, like Audible.
Okay.
Well, I got it free on Spotify because Spotify has lots of books. You can pay for some, but they have lots of free ones as well.
Okay. Yep.
So I've been a bit, and it's like 11 hours. Like when you think about it, like a book takes people like 11 hours, and because they pause, normally if you're reading it,
you're speed reading, you'd skip a few little words.
But it's like it's a book. It's so weird. I had read the whole series. It's these like crime thriller type things. I had read them years ago and then just really hadn't a hankering to try to read them again, but you can't get them. And like the book is about like $25. And I'm like, I'm not going to pay that for a book I've already read before.
Yeah,
So then when I
yeah.
found it on Audible, I started listening to it. So that's all I'm doing when I drive to work, when I'm cooking in
That's a
the
good
kitchen. Instead
idea,
of putting
actually.
music on, I'm putting my book on.
Yeah.
So it's Blindsided by Karen Slaughter. So I'm doing that, but I'm also reading, of course. So the two books that I've read since we last did the podcast was The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Awesome book. But the one that I read that I love the most is called something called Three Dark Crowns. And I thought this is probably be up your alley. And I got it based on some recommendation that I read online on Instagram or something. Didn't realize when I ordered it that it's a bit on the young adult side. And I hate young adult. Ugh, can't do them.
Yeah, it's a bit too cringe.
But it's very dark. So it's not actually young adult. I think the genre would be classified as young adult, but I don't feel that it's a real young
So
adult book.
teeny bopper stuff. Yeah.
No, and it is about three sisters who are 16. So what the premise is it's called Three Dark Crowns. So it's in a different universe type thing, like I would say almost medieval-y type, but a bit more modern than that. And it's three triplets that are born from it's like it happens like every 20 odd years or whatever. These three triplets are born from a queen. It's always the triplets, and they're together until they're about 4 or 5, and then they get separated, and only one of them can survive. So then they're together, they grow up. So the mother leaves them as soon as they're born. They go into like a family that looks after them until they're 5. Then they get separated, and all three of them go into different families in different parts of this island. And then they're brought up until they're 16 to hone their skills. And they're supposed to have a special power that comes out at different times. And it's a different type of power. But they have to kill one another. So there can only be one left standing. So by the time they're 17, one of the sisters has to kill the 2 other sisters.
Jesus.
And only one can take the crown. And it's been going on every 20 or so years for centuries. So it's like how they live their life. It's their political, it's just their whole lifestyle. The queen, there's a queen, she has the triplets, whatever the power is, so whatever family they go to. So for example, one of the powers is a poisoner. So they can ingest all this poison and still survive, which means that they have, this ability to poison people and do all this horrible stuff. So the poisoners have been in power for years and years and years.
Okay.
And then the other one is like, they can do stuff with nature. So they can make flowers bloom and apples come off an apple tree that's dead and stuff like that. And then the other one is the seasons, well, not the seasons, like the elements. So they can make waves and bring on a storm.
That's a good
create
one.
Fire. Yeah. So the poisoner, her realm has been in every time a queen comes on, it's a poisoner queen. So they all want the poisoner girl, the poisoner sister, to be the one to take over.
When the 3 girls are born, they all have that power within one of those powers within them. Yes. And the poisoner's always the one that keeps murdering the other 2.
Has been in power for the last 100 years or so. Yeah. So it's always been a poisoner queen who's won. But their power may come out at birth, or it may not come out until they're 17, or it may never come out at all. It just depends on, the girls. Yeah. So the poisoner, she's the one that everyone thinks is going to win, kill the sisters and be in power again, but she hasn't got a power.
As history would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very full on. It's a very different kind of story, and I'm fucking hooked. So I finished the first book, and there's 6 books, I think, in the series. So have ordered the second, but it gets really brutal. Some of the things that happen, it's a little bit Game of Thronesy in terms of the brutalness.
Right.
People get killed off that you're not expecting to get killed
that
off.
You like.
Yeah.
No, come back.
They're quite brutal in their punishment, a little bit Handmaid's Tale-y type stuff as well.
So are you, as the reader, rooting for the girl that's the poison who's meant to have it because everyone does when they're poisoned, but she's not got her power? So you sympathizing for her? You're like, come on, Elemental.
Well, no, because you see each side of them, and you're actually rooting for them all, and you're like, how are they ever going to kill each other?
Right.
And so there's one sister who knows she can't kill them. is impossible. She's the most powerful one. She knows that she cannot kill her sisters, whereas the other two sisters have completely come to terms with the fact that they're going to have to kill each other, and they're up for it. They're like, yep, I've trained, for the last 10 years.
Who's the
I'm
one?
ready.
What power is the one that's the most powerful that doesn't want to kill?
She has the fire and the wind,
Okay.
and the sea and everything.
Right.
But the twists and turns that happen in it, like it's very fun. It's so good. And I was thinking,
Cool.
I would love to give this to you because I think that you would love it.
It'd be a good little TV series too.
That's what I keep thinking. I can't believe they haven't like made like a TV show or a movie out of it.
Yeah.
It would be like a Hunger Games type thing. You'd bring out the first book and then the next ones, I think, because there's so much involved.
So did the girls all live together and shit like that, or did they separate them and let
they
them
did till they were 5, and then they just get split to the 3 families that they think.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
The moment they're born, the mother goes, right, she's a poisoner, she's an elemental, and she's, I forget the other, whatever they call it when they're
Nature.
in tune with nature. Yeah. And then she knows straight away what they are. And then the families come when they're 5 and take them separately, and then they don't have any
Train
interaction.
them up and shit. Yeah.
And then it's a bit like Hunger Games where you get to the point, where they're sort of on parade and they've got the suits, but they've never seen their mum. She gave birth to them and then she left. So she's done her part. So once she wins at 17, the crown, then she has a king's consort, and they get married. And as soon as she has those babies, her job is done. She's out. So she takes a king's consort and she goes to another island and she lives out her days, never ever being involved ever again.
So she's not even queen anymore.
She's queen until she's queen, and her like reign is still there, but there's like a group of people who run it for her.
Right. So I wonder if there's some twist about what actually happens to them when they go on their island.
There's heaps of twists.
It's not like they're living out their days like they do in the Hunger Games. Maybe it's interesting. I like it.
It's very, very interesting.
Well, hopefully they will make it a TV series.
I know. Well, I will give you the book next time I see you. But on that note, how are you reading? How's your book going? Have you finished The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo yet?
No, I haven't. I haven't read it. I know. It's just, I think, I haven't. I've just been really busy with work. And we have been watching a lot of TV lately. So we finished Bad Sisters.
Oh yeah,
I really recommend it. It's it's 10 episodes. It's funny.
Would Tyler like it?
He might like it because there's so many different sort of characters, and there's funny stuff. He might give it a crack. I'd say give it like the first 2 episodes, and then he'll know if he's into it or not. But very good. And the second one comes out soon. But we're going to start watching Slow Horses next.
Oh, everyone's talking about it. Tyler said to me the other day, "He's like, can we please watch that next?" I was like,
yeah, I know. I'm like, but Vinny's intrigued, and I've had a colleague at work say, who recommended Bad Sisters to me first. She said to me, she watched Slow Horses first. She thought that was great. She liked Bad Sisters, but Slow Horses is better. So I'm just going to give it a crack.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me know how that goes. And then Tyler's probably going to convince me to watch it anyway. I didn't want to watch House of Dragon. I was like, oh, do we have to? I don't think I'm going to get into it. And fuck, it was good. I'm so glad he forced it on me.
Yeah, it is good.
It is a great series.
I'm a bit sad that's over, but we've started our Game of Thrones journey, and we just gotten to the last episode of season 1. Which we'll probably watch
Tyler's
tonight.
way ahead. So he started it, I think, had just started it when we did the last podcast a couple of weeks ago, the recording.
Yeah.
And he's up to like when, Sansa's gotten away from Ramsay Bolton. That's how far he's gone. He's just smashed it. Like I'm reading with my earplugs in and he's smashing through Game of Thrones.
Well, again, because same with Bad Sisters, Vinny was only allowing 1 episode a night. And then we watch 1 episode of Game of Thrones, and then we watch True Crime. And we usually watch 2 episodes of True Crime.
Well, Tyler wanted to watch True Crime the other night. He said, let's put something on, but we just couldn't find anything. And I couldn't think of all the ones and I was literally going to message you and be like, tell me the best one to watch right now.
Yeah.
But it was late and I thought, oh, you're probably going to take ages to message me back. And then I thought, oh, I'll just leave it. And then we ended up watching The Adam Project.
Well, the case that I'm doing tonight, has been the subject of 2 specials, and we watched one of them on Foxtel probably about 2 months ago, and that's what I was like, oh, I'll do this one, and it's called Swipe Match Murder. And then
Obviously Tinder or some sort of dating app.
damn right. And then noticed only within the last couple of weeks, Netflix have released. So that one I think was 3 episodes, 2 or 3 episodes, of Swipe Match Murder. Netflix has done a documentary on it called The Lie. And that's only come out in the last couple of weeks, and it's like an hour and a half. So it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for just like a 1 episode one, or if you're looking for something that's multi-episodes, fucking Making a Murderer. I know you haven't watched that. It's not even gory. It's just like mind blowing, some of that shit. And also the fucking West Memphis 3. Now that
I've had them on my list to do actually for a while.
because there's 3 of those. Starts off with the Sherwood Forest murders or something like that, and then the second one, and then the third one, and they're about an hour and a half long each. Some of that stuff is a bit hard to take, but it's just the injustice and all that shit that just gets you riled up, and that's fucking hardcore but good.
Have you watched that new one that's on Netflix, the Lacey, whatever it is, where the husband killed her and she was pregnant, I think, or she had a baby?
We did do that one.
It's new. It's only just come out, but I remember the story because I said to Tyler, so he doesn't really like it. He likes
Peterson.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. He likes it, when it's more like a gang related or there's stuff. I like it more when it's like the individual and it's a woman who goes missing, or there's all that conspiracy in the background. Like I'm more of a serial killer type one. He's more of a
like Soprano-y type one.
Yeah, or he's more if there's a conspiracy theory that's in the background and there's a group of people, like all spy related and stuff like that. We're very different tastes when it comes to true crime.
Yeah, well, Making a Murderer has so many conspiracies and twists and turns in it. So he'd probably like that one, but it's like an 8-episode thing. And the one that West Memphis 3, that has so many twists and turns in it and lots of conspiracies out there, and so both of them would be very good.
So how's your week been, stupid bitch? We've been yammering on about TV and books.
That's all right. So some of my week could be about the TV stuff I've said. Just quickly, we spoke about earlier, I don't know if it makes the cut, about how we went to Pink Flamingo at Hamilton North Shore. Kylie, our dear friend, bought us VIP tickets for it. Her treat, it was like $100 each for the show Ripped. And we had front row seats. There was like an hour beforehand where you got bottomless bubbles and canapes.
Wow.
I know, for $100. The canapes were shit. She came out with like a little tray of spring rolls, mozzarella sticks, and some vegetable skewer thing. And that was okay. But then, some bubbles. You sit in this fancy little pink area. You get the bubbles served to you.
Is it the Flegel? What's the Flegel tent?
Spiegel
tent. It's like that, isn't it? That sort of theme type. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we had that. Went into the.
I love those though. I love that kind of stuff. I've been.
This was like the male review.
Yeah, so I don't know if Tyler would be into it.
I don't think he would. But it was like there was hardly anyone in the thing. There was probably about maybe 50 people when it could have set 200, I'd say. And it was just, I don't know, like the men, they had nice bodies, they're attractive. I don't know. It was just a bit of cringe about it. You know what I mean? Like doing the whole looking at you and like, yeah, and pointing at you like when they do a strip, and they were all dancing together. There was no real moment where one would come out and just strip and make it hot. It was just like dances.
Remember, we went to one years ago. I think our friend Lou got me tickets for my birthday.
Oh, that was the Spiegel tent.
That was the Spiegel tent. And then my ex-husband got me tickets to the Spiegel tent when we were in London, and we went to a different show but the same people, and they were in London. Bunch of Aussies running it too in London, cool. And the same group that ran it when we went to see it in Brisbane.
Some of the cabaret and acrobatic ones they do are really good. It was fun. It was fun. We got shit-faced, of course.
Of course.
The other thing, did you see anything about the Trump-Harris debate?
I've seen the jokes that have come out, I think, pre-debate, like what they were saying. There's like been the drinking game and stuff, and
Yeah.
take a shot if they do this and whatever. But I'm just so over American politics. I'm so over politics in general, to be
I
honest.
know what you mean. It's just, for me, it's just one of these things where I'm just like, oh,
It's
please,
just a train. It's just a
please
fucking train wreck, isn't it?
get in
Like,
Kamala Harris, you know. Like he was making statements saying that immigrants were coming into this place in Ohio and eating people's pets, their cats and dogs, eating them. And the guys that adjudicate it, whatever, you know, run it, whatever. One guy goes, oh, we've done some fact checking on that. And we spoke to the mayor of that area and he said they've never had
full of
any
shit.
issue about that. And they've never had any issues from immigrants. He goes, I've seen it on TV like that. And Kamala Harris is just wetting herself laughing. Just like, I mean, this guy. So
But she doesn't
hopefully,
really have a lot of people on her side, though, either, does
oh
she? Or
no,
does
she
she?
does. Yeah,
Oh, so they
yeah.
think she's going to get in,
She's
or is it
raised
still right down the middle?
I think it's
Hard to say.
hard to say. It's hard to say. But she got raised the most money for a Democratic fundraising thing to support her campaign in the shortest amount of time. As soon as she came in
Even
and
more than
Biden,
Obama.
yeah, so when she came in and Biden had left, she ended up with getting fucking millions of dollars in donations within the first 24 hours and shit. And there's so many people behind her. And I think stuff like that debate is just shooting Trump fair in the face.
It'd be pretty insane to have the first female president of the United States. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's huge. Like, that's history making.
And a person of color too.
We were alive for that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's a big deal. I
It's a
do,
huge deal.
again, I definitely don't want Trump to get in, but
Mm.
I don't live there.
I
I
know
know
it's just
Trump has
scary
his
what,
supporters, so he's been
but
in
what the,
before.
it's just what the effect of that can have internationally. That's
Of
what scares
course,
me. Yeah.
like it did last time.
Yeah. But that's my week.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, good week. Um,
So Vinny has just texted me from the room, my little fact checker. She raised almost 600 million and she has raised almost 600 million and Trump has raised almost 300 million. So
for the
she's,
campaign, just to
yeah.
spend on the campaign. What an atrocious amount of money to spend on campaigning. What a joke that is. That money could go to people in need.
Well, hopefully by getting her in, she'll make decisions where
Oh,
people in need
God.
get a bit more money. But yeah, it is a lot of fucking
It's
money.
sickening, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, but I'm glad she's getting more than him. All right, shall I get on to my case?
Please,
It's
let's
called
start, shall
The
we?
Case of Grace Millane. Have you heard her name? Grace
Mm,
Millane.
no, I don't believe I have.
So, 21-year-old Grace grew up
Give
in
us a brutal
Wickford.
scale. What are we on?
Oh, okay. So brutal as in like gore. Is that's the ones that really
Just a
get you?
general brutality scale, please. I don't want you to
Okay.
confine it to different
Brutal, I'd say 4 out of 10.
components.
Tragic, 10 out of 10. Sadness, they're all tragic and sad, but on a brutal scale, I don't know, it's hard.
You worry
It's
me. You really do.
so you might be sad, but it's not like, oh God, baby, turn back, turn back. If you come this far, turn back. It's not one of those ones.
Oh God. Okay.
That's what we can
Says
rate it
you.
on. That's what we can rate it on, gauge it on. Is it a Tyler turn back or is it he'll be okay? He'll be okay. 21-year-old Grace grew up in Wickford, Essex, just outside of London. She'd recently graduated from the University of Lincoln with a degree in advertising and marketing. As a lot of people do after graduating, she took a gap year before jumping into her career, a chance to see the world and get some adventure under her belt. She'd already spent 6 weeks traveling through South America before arriving in New Zealand for 2 weeks of her journey. And on the 20th of November 2018, she touched down in the land of the long white cloud and began exploring the Upper North Island, taking in the beauty that New
This
Zealand
is
had to
starting to
offer.
sound a little bit familiar.
So on the 30th of November, she arrives in Auckland. Grace stays in regular contact with her family throughout her
What year?
travels, 2018. So
So
6 years
fairly
ago.
recent.
Mm. So she stays in regular contact with her family throughout her travels. You could imagine being a solo traveler, her folks would be like, bitch, you better call every now and then and often. So on the 1st of December, she sends him a picture of a Christmas tree that's at Skye City. And you know Skye City, right? It's in Auckland, the casino. It's basically under that tower, the Skye Tower.
Yeah, the tower that you climbed up to and
Hung
abseiled
off the
around or
edge.
some shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Just up the road from where we lived,
Yeah.
from our unit. What her family didn't know at the time, however, is it would be the last message they'd ever received from her. So on the 2nd of December, should have been a day of celebration. It was Grace's 22nd birthday. But her family's birthday messages went unanswered. Alarm bells started ringing when days went by without any contact from her, which would have been so fucking awful for the family being so far away.
And also
And not,
2018, there would have been a Facebook present, right? Or presence or some
yes,
sort of social media. So she would have been posting, especially when you're traveling abroad solo.
exactly. To see everything going and then not responding to a birthday message as well when you're 22. They just wouldn't know what the fuck's going on. And you could put one day down to it being a birthday bender, and she's like, oh, she's in a heap. But you'd think you'd get some sort of acknowledgement. But after days of not hearing, that's when you'd really start to panic.
God,
Right?
if I was overseas and didn't respond immediately to my parents' messages, they'd be fucking on a plane.
Well, my mum used to send me things urgent and text Vinny, urgent. Can you get Sean to call me? Have you seen Survivor starts in 2 days? Yes, mum. 3 days after her disappearance, Grace's parents officially report her missing. The police in Auckland begin investigating straight away. The hotel where she was staying confirms that she never made it back to her room the night of her disappearance.
Which was her birthday or the day before her birthday?
The day before her birthday. So they now know what date she went missing. Initially, the cops are playing it cool, noting there's no evidence of foul play, and they start to investigate CCTV footage from around the city from the night she goes missing. And this is what they found. So on the evening of 1 December, Grace was spotted on Victoria Street in the heart of the city. FYI, we lived on Victoria Street East. So very close. I know that isn't appropriate, but when you were watching it and we were watching the Foxtel special, we're like, oh my God, you can see our house. Oh my God, it was right there. Oh my God, this is, sends chills through your body knowing that you were literally right there years before, but still. Anyways, when they spot her, they note she isn't alone. She's with a guy she met through Tinder, who spends the evening with her bar hopping. They're able to piece together all the footage and see the moment that they met under the Skye Tower. Obviously, that was their meeting point. And then you get to watch them going from bar to bar. So you see the journey. It's very flirty, very casual, what's going on between them. I know that's when, like CCTV, I know it's been around for a while, but like the old times, it would be jumpy or the moth would land on the camera and they wouldn't see car plates, too grainy and shit. Now it's just fucking crazy.
Now it's digital.
Yeah. So at 9:41 p.m. that night, she was last seen entering the City Life Hotel on Queen Street with the same guy, and she's never seen again after that. Initially, the police didn't suspect foul play, as I mentioned. There was nothing to suggest that anything was seriously wrong, but as more evidence emerged, it became clear that something had gone terribly wrong, and their fear that Grace Millane was no longer alive escalates. They're able to determine who the man is through the CCTV footage, knowing which hotel he was going into and whatnot, showing the people. And his name is Jesse Kempson. So Kempson was born and raised in the Wellington region, but his life hasn't really been a smooth sailing. His parents split up when he was 9 years old, and from that point on, he was raised by his dad and grandfather. His mum moved overseas, and his dad eventually remarried, bringing a stepfamily into the picture. So by all accounts at that stage, Kempson then becomes estranged with his family, or from his family. At school, the Aotea College, Kempson played softball at a regional level, representing multiple teams. He worked as a bartender and a labourer, even spent a few years living in Sydney between 2013 and 16. But wherever he went, trouble seemed to follow him. He had a drunk driving conviction in New Zealand, and there was a couple of arrests for disorderly behaviour, both in Auckland and Sydney. There was even an allegation from his grandfather that he fathered a child while living in Sydney, though some of his other relatives dispute said claim. It's a pretty messy picture, and this guy is now at the centre of one of New Zealand's most high-profile murder cases. So going back to the CCTV, footage shows Jesse leaving the apartment the day after, and he was seen entering into it with Grace.
Because
With
what's her name was the prime minister at the time. Then wouldn't she have
Jacinta.
been? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's where I remember it from, the appeals from her, because I think she got involved and was saying things and giving updates to the community and stuff. You know how good
Yeah.
she was at that, like communicating when anything was going wrong. She was always there, front and center, telling people what they knew and giving those updates.
Where
I
they
think
were at.
I remember that.
Well, good memory, good memory. We'll get to some of that. So footage shows him leaving the apartment the day after he's seen entering the hotel with Grace. We see him go out and buy a suitcase and hire a rental car. He then goes out on another Tinder date that afternoon in Ponsonby. Do you remember Ponsonby? It's where they had the 3 lamps. I think we had to walk up the hill to get it from our apartment. It's a nice little area. It's kind of new farmy. It's cute. So he'd gone on a date that afternoon when Grace had gone missing the night before. By the next evening, he's spotted again on CCTV footage, wheeling the suitcase out of the hotel on one of those bag trolley things, you know.
Big silver ones, yep.
Yep. Loads it into his rental car and drives off.
What a fucking grab.
Pig. On the 7th of December, Grace's father, David Millane, flies to New Zealand, and you can imagine the dread he must have felt, especially on that long plane ride over, wondering if there's any developments during that time. Anyway, he gets there, he'd be fucking wrecked, but he goes on to hold a press conference, tearfully appealing for anyone with information to come forward. On the 8th of December, police announced that the missing person case has taken a turn, and Grace is no longer missing. She's presumed dead. That same afternoon, the police make their move and arrest the man who was last seen with her and charge him with murder. Jesse Kempson is taken into custody, charged with murder, and the police question him intensely. He makes up lies about who he is, saying he's this really rich guy, very successful, yada, 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 plays dumb, saying he left her at 8 p.m. the night they met up. So they keep sort of getting him to tell his story, even though they know
they've got the CCTV and they're trying to
got all
catch
this
him
shit.
out.
They want him to say this stuff. So then he has to go back and backtrack and whatnot. He keeps up the ruse until they're able to hit him with all the evidence that they have from the CCTV footage. The next day, the 9th of September, police make the heartbreaking discovery. Grace's body is found stuffed in a suitcase around 4 p.m., dumped off Scenic Drive in the Watakari Ranges, about 19 kilometres west of Auckland CBD. Buried in a shallow grave. He buried her in a shallow grave in the suitcase. So this is all happening. They know they've got him, yada, yada, yada. They start going to court. And at the time, even though they know they've got the person and whatnot, and all of the country and parts of the world are watching us, especially from the UK, no one's allowed to know the name of the person suspected of killing Grace. So Kempson's name was suppressed at the start of the trial. During his initial court appearance, the judge denied his request for name suppression, but his defense team weren't having it and they appealed. And in New Zealand, that automatically kicks off an interim name suppression for at least 20 working days. The courts then had to put a suppression order in place, but this is the real kicker. And this is similar to one of the cases you did between Canada and America, I think, or maybe UK and Canada. Anyway. While this applies to the media outlets in New Zealand, foreign media didn't have to play by those rules. So while Kempson's name identity remained hidden locally, international media didn't hold back.
It was the chick who killed the baby, remember, after she killed him and then took the baby to Canada, and then the
tape
US
for Zachary or something.
Yeah, and they were on the sidelines passing the papers across the border and smuggling in the US papers because Canada wasn't allowed to print anything and there was a media ban and blah, blah, blah. But the US was like, fuck this shit.
Here you go. This is the cow. So several overseas outlets, especially in the UK, where Grace is from, and the people from her hometown and country would have been livid waiting for answers, which we totally get, went ahead and published his name. To make matters worse for Kempson, Google accidentally sent out his name in one of their trending topics newsletters, claiming there'd been 100,000 searches of his name within the country, which I fucking love, even though we know how wrong that can go. Because remember, like with baby Cleo, when they found her and found the guy who took her, and they released the wrong image and name of the guy who ended up taking her.
And the Bondi Massacre.
They had the wrong person for that too, didn't they? Yeah.
They did, yeah.
Well, they got the right one this time at least. So we then learned Kempson wasn't just, so when his name's come out, we then learned that he's not just facing charges for Grace's murder. He's also been convicted of 9 other charges, including rape, sexual violation, threatening to kill, and assault. And these came from 2 separate trials that had nothing to do with her case, which is just absolutely
In
chilling.
New Zealand or in Australia?
Look, I'm going to say New Zealand because I don't think they would have let him.
Because I was
they could have
thinking,
extradited him.
I was thinking because once you were saying the Tinder thing, I was thinking about that guy on the Gold Coast, and I can't remember all the details, but remember he had like a fake identity as well, and they met on Tinder, and she went missing, and then he was in the Gold Coast. I
Yeah.
can't remember the details, but it was a Tinder date, and I think she fell off the balcony.
Oh no, yeah, that's not him. That was one where, and he was recording it and everything. And he was saying she was crazy, and he's like, "You're doing this," and rah rah rah, and
It was all bullshit.
yeah. He was just totally abusing the fuck out of her, and then I think she tried to escape off the balcony
And she
and
fell or
fell.
something, or he pushed her
He
or
wouldn't let
something.
her out and shit. Yeah. So the trial kicked off on the 4th of November 2019 with jury selection, and from the start, Kempson stuck to his not guilty plea. The trial was expected to go for 5 weeks and had all eyes on it. So you ready to find out what happened?
Yes, so.
So the Crown prosecution, led by Brian Dickey, laid it out plainly. They argued that Kempson had strangled Grace to death after their Tinder date, and to make things even more chilling, they revealed that after the murder, he had gone online searching for how to dispose of a body and then casually watched pornography. And remember, he then went on another Tinder date that next day, that afternoon, while her body was still in the room at the time.
Ugh.
Fucking psychopath. Dickey painted a picture of Kempson as someone who didn't just kill Grace, but also meticulously tried to cover it up, going so far as to spin an elaborate web of lies to protect himself. 3 women who also met Kempson through Tinder took the stand, testifying that he had a thing for rough, bondage-type sex, including choking.
Ugh. Yeah.
One of them was after Grace had gone missing, and the woman said that he kept saying weird shit about that missing girl and how they'd never find her and stuff like that.
I feel like I remember that bit.
That would be fucking. Imagine being on a date and them saying that, you'd be like, Jesus. The prosecution also presented the security. The prosecution also presented the security footage showing Kempson with Grace and later renting a carpet cleaning machine at the Countdown supermarket on Quay Street. Clear signs he was trying to
I
erase
remember
any
that bit
evidence.
too. The carpet
And that's
cleaning bit.
and that Countdown was the one Vinny and I used to shop at. And I think we would have taken you and Link there too to go into a supermarket.
Yeah.
A pathologist, Dr. Simon Stables, testified that the post-mortem bruising on Grace's body suggested she'd been restrained and asphyxiated. There were more than a dozen bruises found on her body, with 9 of them occurring probably around the time of her death. To her upper arms, left clavicle and collarbone, and to the front and back of her left shoulder. So he's manhandled the fuck out of her. Now, the defense team, led by Ian Brookie, this is where I would hate to be a fucking lawyer where you have to try and defend someone like this, and it's gross, claimed that all was just a terrible consensual sexual misadventure. They argued that Grace had a thing for bondage and that had asked Kempson to choke her during a sex game that went horribly wrong. They acknowledged that Kempson had tried to hide her body, but said he did it out of panic. Apparently, he said that he passed out that night, woke up, and she wasn't in the bed. Then he went to the bathroom or something and found her dead on the floor. He didn't know what had happened or what to do.
Fuck off.
I know. Well, he knew exactly what to do, and then he went out on a fucking date after he had a wank. The defence's expert pathologist, Dr. Fintan Garavant, argued that her injuries could have been caused by consensual sex, pointing to the absence of defensive wounds. They also suggested her alcohol consumption might have played a part in her death. And finally, they tried to explain his behavior, his lies about
it's
being
the
wealthy
woman's
and
fault.
successful.
It's the woman's
Exactly.
fault that she ends up dead.
Victim blaming. They said his lies about it being wealthy and successful as nothing more than the insecurities of a man who had a troubled past.
Grow the fuck up.
I know. That's what I mean. Like, imagine having to find and sort of cling to these sort of really weak, horrible defenses to try and defend this person and argue it in court. I could never do it. The trial lasted 3 weeks, an intense 3 weeks. And on the 22nd of November, the jury returned with a unanimous an enemy with a unanimous guilty verdict just after 5 hours of deliberation.
Oh, way to go, jury.
The verdict hit hard. Grace's parents, David and Gillian, were visibly emotional, and some of the jurors were seen crying after the decision was delivered. So from what I understand, there was some consensual sex happening and perhaps a little of bondage that she'd agreed to.
She was 22.
Oh, totally. No
she
shame.
can do whatever the fuck she wants.
No shame at all. But it just must have been another layer for the parents to have to go through, hearing them defending the killer of their child,
and blaming her because
she was into a little bit of rough play, and so hearing that wanker saying she wanted it, etc. Ick. Anyways, they're able to prove that the amount of time he strangled her to choke her to get to death and the pressure he would have had to have done isn't easy to do to another human. It's not like it is in the movies, unless you're a ninja or whatever, and takes a bit of time. So even if she did consent, even though she did consent, he knew he was killing her. You know what I mean? He knew that this wasn't. Also, Sian Norris from The Guardian also jumps into the discussion, slamming the use of rough sex as a murder defense. She called it grotesque victim blaming and sparked a wider conversation about how we talk about these kinds of crimes. So now in New Zealand, a murder conviction means life imprisonment with a minimum of 10 years before parole can be considered. But for Kempson, the judge is like, fuck you, dude, sentencing him to a life with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years on the 21st of February 2020. Of course, Kempson didn't give up there. He filed an appeal against both his conviction and sentence, with the hearing beginning on the 6th of August 2020. But on the 18th of December 2020, the Court of Appeal shut down his bid, dismissing the appeal and keeping him behind bars. Even though his appeal was denied, name suppression stayed in place for a bit longer due to legal wrangling. That same day, it was revealed that Kempson's legal aid had cost taxpayers over 400,000 New Zealand dollars, which didn't set well with the people at all. And in June 2021, the Supreme Court finally slammed the door on Kempson's legal avenues, dismissing his application for leave to appeal for the verdict. And from that point on, it was clear there would be no more chances for him to overturn the conviction. Hurrah!
Well done.
Grace Millane's death struck a deep chord with people, not just in New Zealand, but around the world. The reaction from the New Zealand public was absolutely massive. It's very similar to the Jill Meagher case over here, which I want to do, but I want to give that one a lot of justice.
It'd be very hard one to do.
Yeah. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern made a heartfelt public apology to Grace's family. Look, this whole part when I was typing this, and I've got
fucking love her, Jacinda Ardern. She's just the best.
She was so good. Goosebumps galore over this next bit the whole time. I nearly even teared up. So she made a public apology to Grace's family on 10 December, just after her body was found. She said, on behalf of New Zealand, I want to apologize. Your daughter should have been safe here, and she wasn't. You could see she was holding back tears as she spoke, so it was pretty emotional. In Auckland, they lit up the Skye Tower and the Auckland Harbour Bridge in the shape of a white ribbon, with the shape of a white ribbon on it, a symbol for the fight against domestic violence. There were candlelight vigils held all over New Zealand, and people just wanting to come together and mourn Grace. A month later, on the 10th of January 2019, hundreds of people turned up for Grace's funeral in Essex at Brentwood Cathedral. The story had touched so many people by then. Now this, I'm still, my legs are like a raw chicken. Out of all the darkness, something truly positive came out from Grace's family. Her mum, Gillian, and her cousin, Hannah O'Callaghan, founded a charity called Love Grace, aimed at helping women affected by domestic violence. They collect handbags and fill them with toiletries for victims of abuse. By December 2023, they had donated over 15,500 handbags across the UK and internationally. They also raised money for the White Ribbon Campaign, which fights to end violence against women. And in a beautiful tribute to Grace's legacy, both Gillian and Hannah were appointed Officers of the Order of the British Empire in 2024 New Year's Honours for an incredible work in charitable fundraising and tackling violence against women. Isn't that nice? It's very sad, but it's nice. That end. And that is Grace Millane, you stupid bitch.
Oh, that was really sad. I teared up. That was really sad.
Yeah, I got teary too when I was finishing the notes off today, and I was getting to that, and I was just like, oh my god.
Just sent her doing this. She's so classy, isn't she? She's just
a woman's touch, man. And I'm not being sexist or anything. I don't know if it is sexist. It's like the whole House of Dragon, how they portray how a woman leads compared to a
but even
like male.
You think about great leaders, like I mean, we love what's his name? Who do we love? The Labour guy. No,
well, we love Bob Hawke, but also Gough
Whitlam. He was always class, always classy.
That's true. And when you look at fucking Margaret Thatcher, we didn't need that woman's touch.
Jeez, Gillian Anderson fucking killed it in that role. Though.
Yeah, she was great.
Love her.
She was great.
That was sad.
It was sad. So that's what I mean. Like, it's not brutal, but it's brutal sad.
It's brutal because, 22-year-old's life was taken by some fucking animal.
Yeah, while she was traveling.
And trying to see the world and,
enjoy it,
life by both hands and...
Totally.
That's so sad.
Yeah. But yeah, watch the one we watched shows you all the CCTV footage, how the police deal with him, expose his lies. I haven't watched The Lie yet. I went to watch it the other night to back up my research, but I will watch it. All right, stupid bitch, hit me.
Okay, my turn. I feel like you're really going to enjoy this. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do something called, I'm going to do True Crime UK. The Red Barn Murder.
Can I just say quickly how our shit always just randomly ties in? Like we've been doing America, then I think, I'll branch out to an NZ one about a UK girl. You're doing UK, and there was something in, I think it was the last pop culture. What did we do for?
Oh, we did the you did that. We both did the hotels.
Yeah. That's right. And yeah.
And we really don't come together. It's just because we're two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
We are. In sync.
In sync. It's gonna be May.
Okay. So I'm gonna. Did you hear about what's his name? Dave Grohl having a baby with that?
Yeah, outside his marriage. With who? Do we know who it is?
There's heaps of stuff. I'm sure there is. But infidelity.
Yeah, I kind of went off him when he bagged Taylor. Recently.
I didn't know that he bagged Taylor, but that doesn't surprise me that you went off him. But God, keep it in your pants. Come on, Jesus. Have some self-respect.
I know, okay. David.
So I'm going to go way, way, way back to 1827.
Ye old times.
Why so far? I hear you say. Well, I think
why so far?
Well, I think there are some details of this crime that you will enjoy.
I thought you were going to say that you will remember because you were around back then, you old bitch.
I was thinking about it. And because of the time passed from the murder, the village where it occurred has now become a tourist attraction.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm just going to put my wine over there because I need my mouse and my hands. So Maria Marten was born in 1801. She had humble beginnings and the family were considered poor despite her father having paid employment as a mole catcher in the small village of Polstead in Sussex, England.
You've had your dealings with mole catchers before, haven't you? You're like, I'm not a mole.
Now, a mole catcher also called a Maori matcha, lols, is a person who traps or kills moles in places where they are considered a nuisance to crops, lawns, and sports fields, etc. In olden day times, mole catchers set out snares for the moles, taking care to remove human scent. Must warn them away. I don't really know. Mole catchers were known to travel from farm to farm, and the customers would provide food and lodging as well as a fee for every mole caught. This has no bearing. This has no bearing on the story at all.
I like
but
how
I
you
thought,
did some research into what the mole catcher was.
I feel like you were going to ask a question, so I had to do a little segue.
Love it, love it.
So the mole catcher could also earn additional money by selling mole skins, and they used to wear them as fashion items.
Yes, I've heard of like
Would
mole
you
skin,
believe that?
a mole skin thing. Yeah.
What do you think about that, you fish-faced mole?
Well, that's
Took
rich.
it away from me. I was going to do it earlier because I knew you would totally be, fish-faced mole, please. But I had to
bitch. You dropped moles so many times. Of course I was going to go there.
I know. Apparently we have these little cute marsupial moles in Australia, but not the big gross ugly ones. They are considered pests, but they are actually good for soil and gardens, and they eat bugs. So I think my point is, leave the moles alone, please.
You mole.
You fish-faced mole.
You fish-faced mole.
Anywho, I digress. In March 1826, at the age of 24, Maria Marten began a relationship with William Corder, who was 22 at the time. Cradle snatcher. That's rich.
That is rich.
Marten, known for her attractiveness, had previously had relationships with several men from the area, which resulted in 2 children. And in 26,
she was an attractive mole.
Yes, she was.
And
she wasn't fish-faced at all.
And like, no offense to those born in the 1800s, but
like
when you see photos and paintings and shit, they were very handsome women back then, weren't they?
It was mostly men painting the pictures, though, right? Anywho, so one of these children, fathered by Corder's older brother, Thomas, sadly passed away in infancy. The other child, Thomas Henry, was still alive when Corder and Marten started their relationship. Thomas Henry's father, Peter Matthews, did not marry Marten, but he regularly sent money to support the child. Okay?
What do you mean you did not marry Marten?
No, so she had 2 babies. So she's dating this Corder guy. She already had 2 babies. One passed away, and the one who passed away was the baby of Corder's brother, so his nephew, but he passed away. And so the other baby that she had that survived, she never married the dude who fathered it, but he used to send her money.
Okay.
So he's pointless.
That's
we don't need to talk about Peter Matthews anymore.
Bye, Peter.
Bye, Peter.
Who would play him in a cameo?
Somebody. Yeah. Maybe you.
I do not agree to marrying you, but here's £1.
On your way, lass.
On your way. And I'm out.
So Corder, born around 1803, was the son of a local farmer and had a reputation as both a con artist and a ladies' man. At school, he was nicknamed Foxy for his cunning behaviour.
Interesting.
On one occasion, Corder deceitfully sold his father's pigs, but his father resolved the matter privately without involving the authorities. Despite this, Corder continues his dishonest ways.
Should have involved the authorities.
I know, totally. He's never going to learn.
A pig stealer.
And this is how it all eventuated. His dad shouldn't have enabled him. Lost my place. Okay. So he later obtained money by passing a forged check for £93 and was also involved in helping a local thief, Samuel Beauty Smith, steal a pig, another pig, from a nearby village. When Smith was questioned by the local constable about the theft, he made a prophetic remark about Corder. I'll be damned if he will not be hung some of these days. You're going to love the old-timey quotes.
The old-timey, I love that. Some of these days.
Following the pig sale incident, Corder was sent to London in disgrace, but he was called back to Polstead after his brother Thomas drowned while trying to cross a frozen pond. So Thomas was the father of the baby who died in infancy.
Yeah.
Within 18 months, Corder's father and 3 other brothers all passed away, leaving him as the sole remaining family member to manage the farm with his mother.
I call shenanigans.
Shenanigans deaths.
Viciously die.
There's a few shenanigans in this story. Corder wanted to keep his relationship with Maria Marten, a secret, but in 1827, at the age of 25, she gave birth to their child and was eager for them to marry. The child later died, with some reports suggesting foul play, though Corder still appeared intent on marrying her. That summer, in the presence of Marten's stepmother, Anne, so Maria Marten's stepmother, Anne, Corder proposed that Marten meet him at the Red Barn, where he suggested they elope to Ipswich.
Oh, the switch.
The switch. But in the UK, not in Brisbane.
I don't even think there was a switch back then.
It's probably called something else now. He claimed to have heard rumors
in Australia.
Oh, yeah, true. He claimed to have heard rumors that the parish officers were planning to prosecute Marten for having illegitimate children.
Jesus.
That red wine's really coming through in this story.
It's just funny how you could get arrested for that back then.
I know. Well, it was the 1800s. Come on. Corder initially suggested they elope on the evening of Wednesday, 16th of May, 1827. Isn't that a common theme? I feel like we're always going 16th of May, Maria's birthday.
Yeah, you did have that last year.
We've done it a couple of times. Yeah.
It's Maria's birthday.
But later decided to postpone until the following night. On the 17th of May, he was again delayed, with some sources mentioning his brother's illness as the cause, though most claimed all his brothers had passed away already. On Friday, 18th of May, Corder arrived at the Martens College during the day and, according to Anne, stepmother, told her stepdaughter...
I love how you do. I love how you know. I'm like, and who's that again? And who's she? Because I'm so shit with names. Thank you. I appreciate, I acknowledge.
So told the stepdaughter, Maria, they had to leave immediately, as he had heard the local constable had obtained a warrant to prosecute her for having illegitimate children. While no such warrant had been issued, it's unclear whether Corder was lying or mistaken. Marten expressed concern about having to leave in broad daylight, but Corder insisted she dress in men's clothing to avoid suspicion, while he would take her belongings to the Red Barn and change before they headed to Ipswich. Shortly after Corder left the Martens College, Marten, Maria, sent out to meet him at the Red Barn located about a half-mile away at Barnfield Hill. This was the last time she was seen alive. Corder also disappeared but later resurfaced, claiming that Marten was in Ipswich or another nearby location. He explained that he couldn't bring her back as his wife yet, fearing it would anger his friends and family. As pressure mounted for Corder to present his wife, he eventually left the area. He wrote letters to Marten's family claiming they were married and living on the Isle of Wight, offering various excuses for her silence. She was unwell, had injured her hand, or the letter had been lost. Now, I don't know if she took the child with her. So 2 babies died, but she had 1 living child that the dad was paying life support for.
Life support. Same back then, to be fair.
So I don't know what happened to the kid. I tried to find out, but I couldn't find any information about it. As suspicion about Marten's disappearance continued to grow, her stepmother began speaking of unsettling dreams in which Maria had been murdered and buried in the Red Barn. These recurring dreams deeply troubled her, convincing her that something sinister had happened. On 19th of April 1828, after persistent urging, she persuaded her husband to investigate. Reluctantly, he went to the Red Barn and began digging in one of the grain storage bins. To his horror, he quickly uncovered the remains of his daughter wrapped in a sack. Although badly decomposed, the body was still identifiable. An inquest was soon held at the Cock Inn in Polstead.
It's my favourite place.
A building that still stands today, please. There, Maria was formally identified by her sister, also named Anne, based on several distinguishing physical features. Despite the state of decomposition, Maria's hair and some of her clothing remained recognizable. Crucially, she had been known to have a missing tooth, which matched the gap in the corpse's jawbone. These details confirmed the grim discovery. Further evidence Further evidence linking Corder to the crime emerged. His distinctive green handkerchief, weird, was found tied around the neck of the body, strongly implicating him in Maria's murder. Now, it's this point that I have to think staged, right? Like, I just feel...
Do you know, that's interesting you say that, because I was thinking, I wonder if, like, the handkerchief, it'd have to be a long handkerchief, you'd think, to be tied around the neck. You could pull a tooth out of anyone. But I was thinking at first, I wonder if it was just like a Wild Things. Do you remember the movie? Like, she actually is alive somewhere and they just killed some broad and did this.
And she'd been gone for a year. So a year of being decomposed is a pretty long time. And they're saying, oh, yeah, by the hair and the tooth and yada, yada. But wasn't it quite common to not have teeth back in the day? And no, I'm saying, like, I feel like
I mean, the clothes you can sort of see. And the fact she had these dreams and he dug in a grain thing, not in the soil.
I know. Yeah, he didn't. Yeah. And of course, he started digging. Like, what? Why would you just dig in the, like, wouldn't you dig somewhere else? Like, wouldn't you go in there and be like, I can't see anything. There's no signs of anything. Okay. You know, I checked. There's nothing.
Oh, there's some disturbed soil there. But in
I guess maybe because they hadn't heard from her either. So maybe they were convinced that she was dead.
Yeah. And when they found out there was actually no warrant for her and he lured her to the Red Barn.
Well, they're not certain of that. What they're saying, based on the historical recollection of it, they can't find a warrant. So they're not sure if he was confused and someone told him, oh, they're out for her. And or he was legit, or if there was and they don't have a record. You know, it's olden day times. Come on.
Like the Dewey Decimal System did not work in the filing.
Corder was easily located thanks to the efforts of Ayres, the constable in Polstead, who obtained his previous address from a friend. Ayres was assisted by James Lee, a London police officer who would later become known for his role in the investigation of Spring-Heeled Jack. I couldn't segue into it. I apologize.
It's a whole new case.
I thought about it, but I was like, if I go there, this story's already long enough.
Yeah.
And we're not even at the good part yet. Together, they tracked Corder to Everley Grove House, a boarding house for women in Brentford, where he was living with his new wife, Mary Moore. Corder had met Mary through a Lonely Hearts advertisement he had placed in the Times, an ad that received over 100 responses.
Jesus, it was Lonely Hearts. The olden days Tinder.
I mean, I was shocked when I read this, and they go, look, there was heaps of research that I could have went into about, like, apparently he was known for placing ads and women used to respond all the time. There's no fucking picture.
Yeah, exactly. He'll do.
The letter in the newspaper.
I like his wordsmithing.
So Lee, this is the dude from London, using a clever disguise, gained entry to the boarding house by pretending to inquire about boarding his daughter there. Once inside, he found Corder in the parlour, seated with 4 ladies, casually dressed in a dressing gown, with a watch in front of him, timing the boiling of some eggs.
Soft boiled, not yet. Hold.
Tick, 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 tick. Corder appeared relaxed and unsuspecting, enjoying breakfast when Lee approached him. Lee quietly pulled Corder aside and informed him of the charges against him. Corder, however, denied any knowledge of both Maria Marten and the crime itself. A search of the boarding house, however, began to unravel his lies. I don't know about that, but...
I was going to say, it's a bit sus if he's saying, I don't know who this chick is.
Among the items found were a pair of pistols, which were believed to have been purchased on the day of the murder. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Letters from a Mr. Gardner that may have contained warnings about the impeding discovery of the crime, and a passport from the French ambassador, strong evidence that suggested Corder might have been preparing to flee the country or going on a trip.
I think maybe a trip. He wouldn't flee after 4 years or whatever it was.
He was boiling his eggs.
Exactly.
He wasn't in a hurry. Despite his initial denial, the mounting evidence against him would soon make it impossible for Corder to escape justice.
Jesus.
Corder was taken back to Suffolk.
Suffolk.
No, Suffolk.
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 Yeah, it's one of those like Worcestershire,
Right.
Worcestershire.
Where he faced trial at Shire Hall in Berry Street, Edmonds. The trial began on the 7th of August 1828, having been delayed for several days due to the enormous public interest the case had attracted.
Mm.
From as early as the 21st of July, so the trial didn't happen until the 7th of August, the town's hotels began to fill with people eager to
Jesus.
witness the proceedings, many traveling from far and wide.
It's like when Taylor comes to town.
There was no phones.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
all they
the
had.
paper.
It was like their concert.
Word of mouth.
I want to go to it. Stat. Let's go. Yeah, they go all turn up in their horse caravans and shit like that.
I know, right? Such was the demand to view the trial that admittance to the court was by ticket only.
Well,
Just
understandable.
didn't have a lot going on. There's no television. Despite these measures, the scene outside the court was chaotic, with crowds packed tightly around the entrance. Even the judge and the court
Jesus.
officials had to physically push their way through the throngs of people.
Yeah. It's just that whole mob mentality, isn't it?
I know, right? It's like when you
Yeah.
watch Game of Thrones and everyone
Yes,
comes for
exactly
the
what I
hangings and
was
everything, and
thinking.
they're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Throwing
I think
shit at them and
horrifying.
Yeah.
Judge Alexander was notably displeased by the media coverage of the case, criticizing it as being unfair to Corder. He felt the press attention had influenced public opinion to the manifest detriment of the prisoner at the bar. Nonetheless, the Times praised the public for what it saw as their common sense in aligning against Corder, who entered a plea of not guilty at the start of the trial. One of the complexities in the trial was the uncertainty surrounding Maria Marten's exact cause of death. Several theories were considered, but no definitive conclusion could be reached. There was speculation that a sharp object, possibly Corder's short sword, had been thrust into her eye socket. So remember, she had been deceased, they believe, for 12 months, because the last time she was seen was in the May, and then they found her in the April. So that's a pretty heavily decomposing body.
Yeah.
And, medical marvels were not what they are now.
Exactly. There's been
In
quite a few advancements in
1828.
medicine and certain styles.
So, however, some believed this wound might have been inflicted accidentally by her father's spade when he exhumed her body. Strangulation was another possibility, as Corder's handkerchief had been found tied around her neck. Additionally, the presence of other wounds on her body led to the suggestion that she might have been shot. She was in a barn too. Could you imagine, the vermin and stuff like that?
Yeah. Especially in the grain silo, all the mice and shit. Yeah.
Absolutely. This confusion was reflected in the charges, as Corder was indicted for murdering Maria Marten by feloniously and willfully shooting her with a pistol through the body and likewise stabbing her with a dagger.
Jesus Christ.
So they decided to go to both.
It's like Cluedo, isn't it?
We think it's one of these, so we're going to go with both.
We'll say it's both, yeah.
To further complicate matters, in an effort to avoid the possibility of a mistrial, Corder was indicted on 9 separate charges. These included not only murder, but also forgery, among other offences. The prosecution seemed determined to leave no room for error, ensuring that Corder faced justice for his actions, no matter how complicated the circumstances surrounding Marten's death. The trial captivated the public, who eagerly awaited the outcome of this sensational case.
God. It's like someone, if he was innocent, he's like shagged the wrong woman. Someone's gotten really, really pissed off.
Look, I really feel bad for him if he was innocent.
Yeah.
He's just trying to boil some eggs, man.
Yeah, and root some checks. That's it.
So Marten's stepmother was called as a key witness in the trial, recounting the events of the day Maria disappeared and describing the disturbing dreams she later had, which led her to believe that Maria had been murdered and buried in the Red Barn. Which,
yeah, I know.
And
the fact she's had these dreams is all just a bit too, that's specific.
That's rich too, because, they were still hanging people for being witches back in the day. And she's
shit.
Openly saying, yeah, I had a dream. And then I found about it.
And then my husband knew exactly where it was.
I call bullshit.
Yeah. I wonder if they were just sick of her having so many illegitimate children.
I know, right? Even that in
Thanks in our
itself is quite
family.
fascinating, I think, because,
Yeah.
normally it's like, kept hush hush, like, oh
Yeah.
no, they're not her kids, they're our kids.
Yeah.
This is your daughter, but also your sister.
Yeah.
Hang on, wait. Okay. Her testimony was followed by that of Thomas Marten, Maria's father, who relived the harrowing moment when he unearthed his daughter's body in the barn after being persuaded by his wife's dreams. The court then held, I still think, like, come on, shenanigans.
Yeah.
The court then heard from 10-year-old George, Maria's younger brother, who testified that he had seen Corder with a loaded pistol. Okay, how did he know it was loaded? Shortly before Maria's disappearance. Later, he had seen Corder walking away from the barn carrying a pickaxe, a chilling image that added to the growing suspicion. Again, shenanigans. The younger brother, he was only 10.
Yeah. I think it was that, yeah. And there
It's
was a
definitely
bullet.
loaded. It was definitely loaded.
And there was a bullet missing from the gun when he left.
Oh, hang on. Now I've lost my part. Okay. So James Lee, the officer who arrested Corder, gave further damning evidence recounting Corder's capture and the incriminating items found during the search of his house, including a pair of pistols believed to have been used in the crime. No ballistics then, my friend.
Yes.
The prosecution painted a dark picture of Corder's motives. They argued that Corder had never truly intended to marry Maria Marten, despite the birth of their child. Instead, they suggested that Maria had leverage over Corder, having known of some of his criminal activities. No criminal activities were cited. Tension between them had escalated when Corder allegedly stole money sent by the father of Maria's child, the child support, life support, if you will. Adding another layer of betrayal to their troubled relationship. The prosecution contended that this led Corder to murder her in order to free himself from her influence and avoid any further demands she might make on him. When it was Corder's turn to testify, he offered a very different version of events. He admitted to being in the Red Barn with Maria, but claimed they had a heated argument, after which he left in anger. According to Corder, as he was walking away, he heard a pistol shot and rushed back to the barn, only to find Maria dead on the ground with one of his pistols beside her. I feel like he gave this confession under a lot of duress too. He's probably missing a hand by this point.
2 black eyes. Yeah.
He denied any involvement in her death, suggesting that her fatal injury had been an accident. Corder pleaded with the jury, asking them to reconsider the possibility that he was innocent and to give him the benefit of the doubt. What do you think they did? However, the jury was unconvinced. After retiring to deliberate, it took them only 35 minutes to reach a verdict of guilty.
35 minutes. Jesus Christ.
There's so much evidence.
You can't even boil an egg in that time.
I think you can boil a lot of eggs in that time.
You can.
How long are you boiling your eggs for, mate?
It was the old times. I did it by
6
candlelight.
minutes.
I did it by candlelight.
Upon hearing the verdict, Chief Baron William Alexander passed a grim sentence stating that Corder would be hanged and his body dissected after death.
Oh, God.
His chilling words echoed through the courtroom. We're not even to the good part yet. That you will be taken back to the prison from whence you came, and that you be taken from thence on Monday next to a place of execution, and that you there will be hanged by the neck until you are dead, and that your body shall afterwards be dissected and anatomized.
So it's like being hung, drawn, and quartered, basically, isn't it?
And may the Lord God Almighty of his infinite goodness have mercy on your soul.
Yeah. Some lord that would wish all that shit.
Oh, I'd love to know the real events. I would love to go back in time and be like, really
Piece
happened.
It all together. Yeah.
Okay. So, allegedly, in the days leading up to his execution, Corder wrestled with his conscience. For 3 agonizing days, he contemplated whether to confess to the crime. Again, this is people just making stories up.
But I'm sure they were agonizing days for him.
Yeah, I know. Tormented by the weight of his guilt, not torture, and fear of facing the afterlife without clearing his soul. His wife, prison chaplain, warder, the prison governor, all urged him to come clean and confess his sins before God. Finally, after intense internal struggle, Corder admitted to killing Maria. However, he denied stabbing her, instead claiming that the shooting had been accidental, like he'd said before. According to Corder, after a fierce argument, Maria had been changing out of her male disguise, remember, because he dressed her as a bloke. When in the heat of the moment...
That's it. I'm getting these slacks and dinner jacket off.
Don't know. She was the daughter of a mole catcher. I'm not sure she owned a dinner jacket.
I'm getting these slacks and moleskin jacket off.
So in the heat of the moment, while she was changing out of her disguise, he accidentally shot her in the eye. His confession came too late to save him, but it offered a final glimpse into his version of events before his fateful meeting with the hangman.
Yeah, they beat the shit out of him to confess, to prove that they were right.
Without a doubt.
They knew what was happening.
And then it didn't matter anyway when they finally, got the confession out of him. They were still going to hang him anyway.
Yeah.
Now, this is my favourite bit.
But then they don't have to go back. They can say, see, told you all along we were right. No doubt, people. 35 minutes.
So on the 11th of August, 1828, Corder was led to the gallows in Berry Street, Edmonds, appearing frail and barely able to stand without assistance. His physical weakness, whether from fear or illness or other things that shall not be named, stood in stark contrast to the spectacle that awaited him. Shortly before noon, Corder faced his execution in front of a vast crowd. The number of spectators is debated, with one newspaper estimating around 7,000 people, while another suggested as many as 20,000 had gathered to witness the execution.
It's like Trump's inauguration. There was millions of people. There was 12.
The case had gripped the public, and the large turnout reflected the intense curiosity and horror surrounding the murder of Maria Marten. As Corder stood on the scaffold, supported by prison staff, the atmosphere was thick with tension. At the urging of the prison governor, Corder made a brief but damning final statement just before the executioner pulled the hood over his head. In a voice weakened by fear and resignation, he confessed to his guilt. I am guilty. My sentence is just. I deserve my fate, and may God have mercy on my soul. With those final words, the hood was drawn over his head and the trapdoor beneath his feet was released. Corder was hanged in front of the silent crowd, his body swaying in the air as the justice of the day was carried out. After hanging for an hour, the executioner, John Foxton, cut down the lifeless body. As was his right, Foxton claimed Corder's trousers and stockings, a grim tradition carried out in many executions.
Oh my God. I'll have those. Thank you.
They belong to me now.
They're mine now. Rotten hell. Lovely stockings, by the way. Damn, I wish we asked him where he got them before we hung him.
I should have. I just fell on this story accidentally and I was like, oh my God, this is the best ever. We're not done yet. Corder's body was then taken back to Shire Hall, the same courtroom where he had been tried and sentenced to death. You ready for this one? There, his corpse was publicly displayed with the abdomen slit open to expose the muscles as part of the dissection ordered by the court. The act of anatomization, a common punishment for murderers, served both as a form of scientific inquiry and a final act of degradation. I feel like the scientists were really advocating for it.
Yeah.
Haven't had a hanging in a while.
I need to know how abs work again.
Medical students are waiting.
I mean, at least the body was put to good use, I guess, for that.
Oh, just wait.
Oh, God.
The public, still captivated by the gruesome tale, were permitted to file past the body for hours. According to the Norwich and Bury Post, over 5,000 people lined up to view the corpse, eager to catch a glimpse of the man who had so brutally murdered Maria Marten. Allegedly.
Yeah.
By 6 o'clock in the evening, the doors were finally shut and the gruesome display came to an end. Corder's dissection not only satisfied the legal requirements of his punishment, but also catered to the morbid fascination of the public, eager for closure in a case that had horrified and intrigued them for months. I feel like they really didn't care about her until she was dead anyway, right?
They just wanted a good old hanging. They're like, this has the potential for one, guys. This could build up into one.
The This is you, though. You would be fast. You'd be on there. You'd be like paying for the most expensive
I'd
hotel
have
ever.
the ticket. That's for damn sure.
You're in front and center.
It would have been like a Taylor concert. Everyone online trying to get their ticket randomly. I got it, guys. I got it. Fuck you.
His death marked the conclusion of a scandalous crime that would be remembered for generations to come. The day after Corder's execution, the grim process of dissection and post-mortem examination took place in front of an audience of medical students from Cambridge University and local physicians. This was a common practice at the time for those executed for serious crimes, as public dissections served both as scientific exploration and as a further means of punishment. Well, they're dead then, you know what I'm saying? Like, it'd be different if they were still alive, but still, come on.
Yeah, it's kind of taking the piss.
It was reported that a galvanic battery had been brought from Cambridge, likely to conduct experiments in galvanism on Corder's body. The early form of bioelectric research involved attaching a battery to Corder's limbs to stimulate muscle contractions.
Oh my God. So they just had a field day with him after it is gone.
Keeps going. Demonstrating how electrical currents could make the dead body move, a spectacle that blurred the lines between science and public entertainment. So people watched it too.
Yeah. And they would have been pissing themselves as his arm flew up.
It's
and
so
shit
bad.
Like that.
It's so disgraceful. Like it happened in the 1800s. This experiment intended to show the effects of electricity on human tissue and fascinated the observers, adding another layer of intrigue to the already sensational case. During the dissection, Corder's sternum was opened and his internal organs examined. There was ongoing speculation regarding the exact cause of his death. Some witnesses claimed that Corder's chest had continued to rise and fall for several minutes after he had been hanged, leading to belief that he may not have died immediately from asphyxiation. Instead, some medical professionals hypothesized that the pressure on his spinal cord from the hanging may have been the true cause of death. These discussions, though speculative, highlighted the crude understanding of the mechanics of execution at the time, and the dissection offered an opportunity for the surgeons to explore such questions firsthand.
Fascinating. You can imagine them all around. Oh, Charles, this is fascinating.
It's so bad. And imagine like the lack of,
ethics.
Like the cleanliness too. Like, they wouldn't be washing their hands all the time. They'd just be grabbing
might have a glove
things
on it. That's it. Yeah.
While a full examination of the brain was not possible due to the condition of the body and the decision to preserve the skeleton for later reassembly, the surgeon turned to phrenology, a popular pseudoscience for the period. They examined Corder's skull in search of insights into his character and criminal tendencies. They noted that the areas of the skull associated with traits such as secretiveness, destructiveness, and imitativeness were highly developed.
Or beaten with a shovel.
While those linked to benevolence or veneration were notably underdeveloped.
And there's absolutely no scientific background clearly proving that this is correct.
She's making all these assumptions while they're holding his brain and shit. Poor fucker. The analysis was presented as a physical explanation for Corder's behavior.
What did they mean highly developed? Do they mean like swollen?
Basically, they were saying parts of his brain seemed bigger and they were all linked to like all the criminal aspects of what he'd done being a murderer. And then the undeveloped parts were because that's why he didn't have a lot of empathy and that's why he could commit a crime. So basically they're saying this brain shows that this guy was a murderer.
Where we hit him is where the swelling happened and their largest parts.
The analysis was presented as a physical explanation for Corder's behavior, and they sought to connect the shape and size of skull regions with specific personality traits. While now discredited, at the time, this added a scientific veneer to the belief that Corder had been destined for criminality.
God, that poor bastard. At least he's not forgotten.
A bust of Corder's head created by the sculptor Child of Bengay was made to further study his skull, and today it remains on display at Moisey's Hall Museum in Berry Street, Edmonds, as a relic of this early attempt at criminal profiling.
Wow.
How messed up. Corden's remains did not rest easily. Several copies of his death mask were made, intended for both scientific study and public curiosity. These
Jesus
replicas.
Christ. Like, I mean, if he'd done it, okay, he'd done it and he deserved what he got with his sentencing. Maybe not as brutal, but
At
it's
least it
not
happened to
like,
him afterwards, though, right when he's
yeah,
already dead.
but it's also not like he went out and killed 30 school children and
And
whatever,
he
you know what
still
I mean?
maintained it was an accident, even when they probably forced him to
Beat the shit out of him.
confess.
Yeah.
He still said it was an accident, but
But
then
they're
he,
treating him
copped
like
it.
he was this absolute serial killer, Jack the Ripper, son
Yeah.
of Sam type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just boiling some fucking eggs.
And rooting
His dressing
chicks.
gown.
Exactly. Chortle, chortle. What?
Poor fucker.
Poor fucker.
Anyway, I've stopped done. So these replicas held at places such as Moisey's Hall Museum and the dungeons of Norwich Castle immortalised the features of one of England's most infamous murderers.
Oh, infamous. Yeah, totally.
Meanwhile, Corder's widow, seeking to capitalise on the morbid fascination surrounding her late husband, advertised items for sale that had belonged to him, including the glasses he had worn during the trial and a snuff box that bore a likeliness of Maria Marten. Snuff boxes are those things where they sniff stuff out of like the tobacco
Yeah.
and stuff. So I don't know how it would like bore a
A
likeness of Maria.
resemblance. Yeah.
Such
That's weird.
relics only deepened the public's obsession with the case, transforming it into a cultural phenomenon. Perhaps the most unusual artifact from Corder's life and death was a book bound in his own skin.
Oh my God. It's
After,
fucking Buffalo Bill type of shit.
it's so bad. After the dissection, Surgeon George Creed tanned Corder's skin and used it to cover an account of the murder.
Yeah, these fuckers are all worse than what he is.
It's so messed up. This gruesome memento was part of a long tradition of the practice of binding books in human skin, usually associated with executed criminals.
God.
Today, this bizarre artifact can still be seen at Moisey's Hall Museum, a testament to the lengths people went to preserve the legacy of Corder's crime. If we are in England together again,
we're totally going
to go to Moisey's Hall Museum.
100%. 100%.
We should look it up and see where it is. Yeah. Okay, hang on. Where was I?
2-hour drive from London, so totally doable.
We are totally going there, man. Add it to the list.
We're going to train.
Okay, so Corder's skeleton, following the dissection, was reassembled and used as a teaching aid at the West Suffolk Hospital. For many years, it was displayed as the prestigious Hunterian Museum of the Royal College of Surgeons in England, where it hung beside the skeleton of notorious criminal Jonathan Wild. Sorry, I didn't research that. These displays were part of the museum's collection of anatomical specimens used to educate medical students and the public. Corder's bones remained on display until 2004, when the skeleton was finally removed from public view and cremated, bringing to an end nearly 2 centuries of morbid fascination surrounding his remains. But I think the book's still there, though. I think they cremated his bones, but I think some of the other stuff and the death masks are still there.
And they probably thought at that stage, I think maybe they're seeing the same shit we're seeing and like, this guy was probably innocent. Let's just cremate him and give him a decent burial.
What a legacy to leave behind, though. Like, I feel like, I always talk about how I don't want to get cremated. I want to be buried so that someday someone will, when the apocalypse happens, dig up my bones and be like, hey, look at this bitch.
Look at this
Here's
bitch.
A skeleton.
Yeah, look at her brain.
Watch her talk.
Where her drinking part is definitely overdeveloped.
So I'm actually totally okay with that if that was my body. I'm not okay with the hanging.
Yeah.
I feel like, the legacy lives on, though.
Or the 35-minute fucking, what do you call it when they go and discuss the fucking...
Oh, yeah.
I'd be like, can you give it another hour, guys? Just give it another hour.
The really
people want more.
On this.
Yeah.
So Corder's trial, execution, and dissection became not just a legal and medical spectacle, but also a cultural event with relics, scientific curiosities, and even his very bones becoming part of a public narrative that blurred the lines between justice, science, and entertainment.
Yes. A lot of
Last
ethical
bit.
issues.
Last clincher. After the trial of William Corder, lingering doubts and suspicions began to surface regarding the circumstances surrounding both the murder of Maria Marten and the truth behind Anne Marten's supposed prophetic dreams.
Yes.
Prophetic.
Prophetic, yeah.
Anne, who had initially claimed that a series of disturbing dreams had led her to the body of her stepdaughter in the Red Barn, was only a year older than Maria. This detail raised eyebrows, and whispers soon spread that Anne and Corder may have been involved in a clandestine affair.
Yeah, it is a woman scorned then, is it?
Some speculated that the two had conspired to murder Maria in order to rid themselves of her and continue their relationship without interference.
But then he fucked off anyway.
Yeah.
With 4 chicks.
I think that the stepmother definitely played a part. Like, we were talking about all these dreams, but she wasn't, declared as a witch in those days. Like, come on.
I know, yeah. Well, she fancied Corder and wanted her for himself. Maybe there wasn't anything going on, but she was just super jealous, and she was the mother, and you were respected.
And she was pretty. Like, she was considered to be very, very pretty back in the day, and she had all these illegitimate children. She was out there living her life, like, yeah, party time. And the stepmother's here going, bitch.
Married to a fucking moleskin father.
Yeah, totally. Ugly moles everywhere.
Yeah.
The timing of Anne's dreams also fueled skepticism. These visions began only days after Corder married Mary Moore, raising the possibility that Anne's jealousy of the new bride may have been the real motive behind her decision to expose the location of Maria's body. Yeah. Poor fucker. Critics of Anne's story suggested that the dreams were nothing more than an elaborate ruse designed to disguise her true role in the crime. They posed that Anne, motivated by jealousy and resentment, had chosen to reveal Maria's burial site once she realized that Corder had moved on with another woman.
Yes, that makes sense.
This theory cast doubt on the entire narrative of the case, suggesting that Maria's murder might have been premeditated by both Anne and Corder. You know what? I'm sick of everyone bashing Corder. I feel like it's all Anne.
Anne
leave this poor bastard out of it.
Where's her fucking bones?
I don't think he was involved at all. I think it was just living his life, just boiling his eggs.
And she's like, "Oh, fuck this guy."
With Anne's dream serving as a convenient cover to deflect suspicion. Despite these rumors, there was never enough concrete evidence to pursue this line of inquiry, leaving the true nature of Anne's involvement shrouded in mystery. Questions arose about the fate of the child born to Corder and Maria. Both Corder and Maria had claimed that the child had died in infancy and was buried in the nearby town of Sudbury. However, no burial records could be found to corroborate this story, and no grave site for the child was ever located. The absence of documentation led to speculation that something more sinister had occurred. Again, guys.
Let's think about this.
Stop making up stories.
Haven't you done enough already?
It must have been to cause drama.
I know, totally.
Stir the shit up. Yeah, let's go. In his written confession, Corder hinted at a bitter argument between him and Maria on the day of her murder, during which the subject of their dead child's burial came up. Though Corder never elaborated on this point, the vague reference added another layer of intrigue to an already perplexing case, suggesting that their child's death and the failure to properly account for its burial may have played a role in the fatal dispute between the couple. Decades after the trial, the case continued to captivate the public imagination. In 1967, author Donald McCormick published The Red Barn Mystery, in which he explored various theories about the crime. McCormick drew a controversial connection between William Corder and the infamous forger and serial killer Thomas Griffiths Wainwright. So many other killers they're trying to tie this dude to.
I know, but he's still the most infamous one. Yeah.
According to McCormick, Corder had crossed paths with Wainwright while in London, suggesting that the two men's criminal activities might have intersected in some way. Okay, again, where's your evidence, bro?
This is what you do. Shoot her in the eye.
Though McCormick provided little concrete evidence for this claim, the mere association with Wainwright, a notorious figure in his own right, only served to heighten the mystique surrounding Corder. There is a folk song about Maria Marten's murder. Shall I sing it for you?
Please. Me.
If you'll meet me at the Red Barn, as sure as I have life, I will take you to Ipswich town and there make you my wife. This lad went home and fetched his gun, his pickaxe, and his spade. He went unto the red barn, and there he dug her grave. With her heart so light, she thought no harm. To meet her love did go. He murdered her all in the barn, and he laid her body low.
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 And he laid her body low. Do you want a song made up about you?
Definitely. I definitely want a song made up about me. Start writing it now, please. Singing at my funeral. Publish it in the paper. Write a book about it.
And perform a musical. Oh my God.
The musical comes first.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? Like there's so many conspiracies and cover-ups that happen in today's small town areas and whatnot. But Jesus Christ, that one just fucking took the cake. That poor bastard got fucking obliterated.
I don't even know how I came across it. I think I was looking for like internet. I just think I just plugged something in and I saw Red Barn Murders. I was like, intrigue. Red Barn. Okay, that sounds snazzy. Yeah, and then when I started reading, I was like, what the fuck? And all the stories start with the fact that he ended up being dissected. I was like, what? I need to know more. I need to know more. And there's so many articles about it. Like it's just, and I've never heard of it before. Never, ever, ever heard of it.
I haven't heard of it. So when you said at the beginning, oh, you'll like this one, I thought, oh, I wonder if I've heard it. No, you were good. I hadn't heard it. And I wonder when the act of dissecting as a form of punishment or degradation stopped. Post-death, when they were like, I think it's run its course, guys.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, that was good.
I thought you'd like that. The whole time I was like, Bino's gonna love this.
And very old-timey.
Yeah, I know. I do like the old-timey ones, but they've got to have a really good story about it. Remember when I did the knitting needle one? Remember the one who used to kill all the babies in Australia?
Yeah. I can't remember what was her name?
I can't remember now, but they used to foster all the babies and then say,
Kill
give
them.
us, and then, and take all the money for looking after the babies because they were unwed mothers and they couldn't really have children. They were trying to work and stuff like that. And they'd say, we'll take over your babies and then give us all this money. And they'd pay them weekly payments and send them letters saying, your baby's doing great.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they had murdered them all.
Yeah, that is so fucking fucked up, isn't it?
So bad.
Yeah, brutal fucking back then. And they could get away with a lot more too. So imagine all the shit that we don't know.
There's no internet.
Yeah, there's no CCTV.
I know. Well, I think that concludes our true crime episode. What?
98. I know. Getting closer and closer to the 100. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you enjoyed it just as much as we did. Tune in next week for our pop culture episode, and we're doing, is it 80s sitcoms or sitcoms that were in the 80s, 70s, 80s?
So old-timey sitcoms.
Old-timey sitcoms, if you will. Ones that you'll go, fuck, I forgot about that. We're going to cover 2 each, but we won't tell you what they are until next week.
No, because I was just about to say, and I was like, I can't say what it is because I actually don't think it was 80s. I think mine's 70s. One of mine's early 80s, and I think one of mine's is 70s.
But anyway, thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, tell your freaking mates.
And you know what? It's really hard to come up with topics. So if you have a good topic for us.
Yeah, especially for pop culture. Well, for pop culture, because the other one's just murder. So yeah, find us some top pop culture topics. It is hard to say. Anyway, good night, you stupid bitches.
Good night.
You can't wish them good night, you dumb bitch. Good night.
I did. I had the sniffles. I was blowing my nose.
Yeah, that stupid bitch. He's a stupid bitch. What a stupid bitch. That stupid bitch.